So I think that's the innovation of Web3. It's not just me, it's everybody. It's like, hey, we get to put out a token and everything's free. People can choose to use stuff completely for free, right? But if they want to take advantage of the network effect of Intercoin, right, and join all those other communities, then they're going to get the token. So you can have your cake and eat it too now. You no longer have to have just the gift economy. You can monetize some of it too. You know,
like I want to be able to like better communicate this to a broader audience, because not only it helps like when you get more people who are just as passionate. I mean, I think that's why it's great to post content like this online, is because you raise the chances of discoverability of those who want to contribute in certain ways that you may know or not know that you need to kind of get this thing moving along. So I think just for that reason alone, the potential to have others who also 100% would be all in on something like this, but they don't even understand the problem well enough to even know that they would want something like this. And I think that's the majority of society. Is like they don't really understand that there's a massive issue. They don't understand how big they're being robbed, and how much more potential they could have, if they creatively were liberated enough to be able to solve problems without having to worry about money and all that jazz like we already spoke about.
I should say the things have changed in some ways.
Who is the determinant of the public interest?
The more time people spend in digital worlds, the more of our lives we live there.
Intercoin, bringing power to the people. When you have a peer-to-peer network, like with freenet and with BitTorrent, right? What happens is that the economics are actually different. So there's implications for the economics of the system. On a web server, right, even the one that's like powered by qbix, you could run the web server anywhere, right? You can run your social community anywhere, but there's still this idea that all of the requests are going to a single server, right? It's serving the request. So if there's a file that needs to be served from some URL on the web, unlike BitTorrent and all this stuff, right? It goes to like a certain URL. And guess what? Some company is out there is registered a server where all of this these requests go, right? That's DNS. DNS is basically a domain name system, and it routes, google.com to whatever servers Google says or indicates, right? So that's DNS. And so the web plus DNS, what happens is some company is responsible for hosting this URL. Well, so what happens? First of all, they can charge you for it. They can make it unavailable, totally unavailable, which actually happened recently with Colossus, the Forbin project. I was looking for it, and it's gone because there's a company behind it. It was a great, it's a more realistic movie than Terminator. Okay, this was made in like 1970, and it's about a computer that's given in charge of nukes, and then it takes over the world with this other computer and basically form like whatever, right? So here's what's weird about it. It's been removed from
what?
Yeah.
Like the movie? Wait, so you can't watch it, or the website for the movie?
You can't watch the movie.
What?
The movie's been removed from all streaming platforms.
Weird. I've seen a book that recently got like removed, but it got removed from Amazon and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting, like the different levels they do this. But DNS is, wow, if you have power to like remove stuff that way.
Well, it's not just power. That's normal. This is what copyright is about. The idea of copyright is that I can resell a book that I bought. So that's like the Supreme Court said, okay, that you can do. You can resell a book legally. All right. That's a secondary sale. It's like secondary
sale. One time. Right.
So that is something the Supreme Court ruled on. Okay. However, streaming a movie, unless you've recorded the movie, right, you're always streaming through a streaming service. But where does the streaming service get the license, right? They get it from the copyright holder. So it turns out, check this out. It turns out Universal Pictures is the copyright holder for the movie. All right. So this is what happened.
Colossus, The Forbin Project, a 1970 sci-fi film about AI removed from all streaming platforms. But why?
Wow.
Go look it up.
Yeah, you got me like 10 links that I need to have from you at the end of this. Like, this is great. Okay, so
let's go
I
back
wanna-
to
yeah,
what.
yeah.
So this is the economics that are so different between the peer-to-peer economic system, right, and infrastructure, to the centralized infrastructure of streaming platforms like Netflix, right, and YouTube. Okay, here, like I was saying, everything is getting streamed from central servers owned by, in this case, Google, right, because they bought YouTube, and so this is more based around capitalism, right? You own the infrastructure, you own Twitter, like literally Elon Musk got a bunch of sovereign wealth funds of governments, and they all bought Twitter, right? So Twitter's partly owned by, I think, the Saudi sovereign wealth fund and others. Okay,
Wow.
and so that is ownership, right? That is literally, they decide if they want to change the logo of Twitter tomorrow, they'll do that. If they want to change the rules on how Twitter works, right, they'll do that. That's ownership. And as we know, like Facebook is basically controlled by Zuck. Like maybe he doesn't own it, but he can't vote him out. He's always the eternal CEO of the company, right? And so that's centralization. On the other hand, you have like Kazaa, right? And you have BitTorrent. And so with these guys, like I said, they go after them, but here, the copyright owners, right? The court ordered Kazaa's owners to take steps to prevent its users from violating copyrights or else pay a heavy fine. So because they're outside the United States, in that country, they could almost like force the developers to release a new version of Kazaa. Now, the community might just fork Kazaa, right? And they say, we don't want this new censored version, you see? Because it's open source. Presumably it would be, I don't know if the client was open source, but if it is open source, right, then people will just fork. Also, if you're located in the United States, there's something called like free speech protections here. And so like Phil Zimmerman, have you heard of Phil Zimmerman? This is
No, the Zimmerman.
This guy, he started PGP, pretty good privacy, okay, for end-to-end encryption. And back then, the military was considered it munitions. You could not export very advanced cryptography. So what he did is he published a book with all the code, okay? And because of free speech, they had to allow the book somehow. So
Okay.
thank you.
I'm adding that to my Amazon cart.
Right. So this book, so the free speech protections of the United States helped to allow end-to-end cryptography. All right. Because right now, I just want to be clear, governments around the world want to end end-to-end encryption. Like this is the map.
No, I'm aware, and it's yeah, makes my
Here we have minimal restrictions still.
Right.
But then you look at, you know, even I've been in Dubai, all right, and they want a backdoor to all of the, you see this lock here? So this lock is HTTPS, says connection is secure, okay? Some governments want the certificate to have the government should be able to snoop on all of the communications, just in case it's a terrorist, you know, or something.
Yeah, quote unquote, right.
You know, and then Australia has the hacking bill. Like I go through all of this, you could read this, okay?
Yeah,
and
in the name of safety, you know.
In the name of safety, Spain wants to ban end-to-end encryption, for example. Like this is Europe. Okay. It's crazy stuff. The UK is very close to making a law. Think of the children, you know. What if the children...
Wait, Spain's thinking of the children? Sorry, you might have to cut that out.
In this case, the UK has a law that they're going to pass. It looks like that everyone in the world might need to either stop serving websites to UK citizens or have to break their encryption. Okay.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. There's a big fight over this, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Here is my point, though. My point is, on the other hand, what you have is decentralized open source software, right? And so if it's open source and people put in these restrictions, someone will just fork the code, right? Like BitTorrent forked or whatever. And then they'll continue on the fork, which doesn't do that. And the owners, anyway, so the owners of Kazaa went on to make Skype. And I'm rehashing this because I started the recording, but Skype is peer-to-peer, and it brought the cost of long-distance phone calls to zero.
I did not know Skype was peer-to-peer. Okay, wow.
So Skype was initially peer-to-peer until it was bought by Microsoft, right? Again, capitalism. The company building Skype was not open source. And so when it couldn't be forked. And so when Microsoft bought Skype, they made it all go through Microsoft's servers. That's why you don't know that it's peer-to-peer. But initially it was totally peer-to-peer. Okay. And this is what I was showing. One of the co-founders of Skype literally came over from co-founding Kazaa. All right. So all these guys that were building open source, whether it was not open source, decentralized and open source. So it was Kazaa, it was BitTorrent, okay, and freenet, the guy interviewed here. All these guys were contributing to a different economic system, which was, rather than going to a site like youtube.com and streaming from their servers, right, you would just indicate the address of some content. All right, it's called magnet links or onion links, or Tor or others. Magnet, it just means here's some content. I don't care which server you use. You can stream from multiple servers at once. I just want to get that content. Okay. So in BitTorrent, you literally reached out to a group of people, and you went ahead and a group of computers, and those computers proved that they have the service. Because you asked me about IPFS, right? So I'm getting, this is
no, I'm tracking. This is good.
So now we're getting to IPFS. So this guy here, Petar Maimunkov, okay, he invented something called Kademlia. Kademlia is used in BitTorrent. So BitTorrent used to have a different framework. Like Kazaa used to flood everyone with everything. In other words, everyone had the same routing table and could find, unlike DNS, okay, everyone had the same routing table. So when I put in an address of a file, and let's say the file was, this protocol would have been Kazaa, I'm just for argument's sake, and then this would be for people who think, okay, that could be some address, right? So this would be the content hash, and that would be the protocol.
Weird. Wow.
See? And so the question became, well, how do you route? And so Kazaa just simply sent every, so you would map, this, right? You would map that to some list of IP addresses, right?
Yeah.
So that would be like the routing table, right? Just to give you some example. So that was Kazaa. Everyone had this routing table. What this guy invented, he invented Kademlia. All right. And look, he joined Protocol Labs in 2020. So he helped advise Intercoin. Actually, I met him. He used to work at NYU, and I used to go to NYU. So I took him out to dinner, and we met and we talked about it. So he invented something called Kademlia, which essentially is what's called a distributed hash table. And distributed hash tables are used in IPFS. They're used in BitTorrent. They're used in so many places. What it is distributed hash table takes an ID of a file, could be any file, okay? You could run some data like a file through a hash function and get a hash. Then you ask the question of okay, here's the hash, DFCD354, whatever, right? That's the hash. And then you're asking which computers are available right now to stream this file to me, right? To serve this file to me. And since they all have chunks of the file, you could multiplex and take one chunk from one computer, take another chunk from another computer. So this Kademlia thing is a routing table called distributed hash table that allows you to find computers based on the content that you want to get. All right. It's very different than DNS.
I like that. DNS, yeah.
That's what, okay. So the economics become different. So DNS is something where, okay, the DNS is okay, I want to know who is serving it, Google, right? And Google controls all this experience, and Google can change up the experience anytime. They can push something new. The content is static. You can't change the content, in the case of BitTorrent, right, or in the case of Kazaa or whatever, is the content is what it is. It's a movie, right? And so, but the economics is different. The economics is, rather than having one server that incurs all the costs of streaming to like thousands of people, live streaming, right? So instead of that, you could have distribute the load because everyone has the file, right? If I am in BitTorrent, if I am seeding and leeching, so if I'm leeching the file, I'm downloading it, then in BitTorrent, normally I would also be sharing the file. Okay. A leech, on the other hand, is a BitTorrent user who downloads the files but does not seed back to others. So, like,
I didn't know the difference. Leech, well, okay.
A leech, so you're leeching.
It has like negative connotations, which is funny.
You're leeching.
You're just taking stuff and not giving back.
Right? It's like, but think about that from the point of view of the BitTorrent economic system, right? Leech, because like we have this content and we need everyone to participate. Why? Because then the network becomes balanced. There is no one service that gets overloaded. You see, YouTube is like a central point from which all of these things are streaming, right? And so YouTube, under capitalism or really any economic system, it would have to recoup the costs of streaming to everyone, right? And initially they sold themselves to Google. And then how does Google recoup the cost? So it serves advertising, right? It tries to, by controlling the platform, they extract rents from people. Maybe they monetize your video and then give you a few pennies. And like, so the bargain is, hey, I will let YouTube run the infrastructure and they need all that cost. They'll recoup that cost by, monetizing my video through ads that they run or through whatever. And then they'll give me some little bit of money, but they'll keep most of the money. Right? Or whatever it is. But the point is that they have to do it off-chain, quote unquote. They have to do it in some secondary channel like ads or whatever, right? Somebody sends them some bank wire transfer. Thank you for all these ads, for running all these ads. But like that's the economic system of capitalism, where one group is privately owning the streaming platform. As you can see, that also means the government could just tell them to shut it down, right? Or the copyright holder says, okay, let's remove it from all streaming platforms.
It's published by Berkeley Publishing Corporation.
Right. So another thing, all of these publishing corporations, they own really the copyrights, okay, to these things. And so it becomes a problem for the authors because the authors are actually not the ones benefiting from it. And this last thing I posted on Facebook, this lady, Jane Friedman, exposed what's happening with AI, which is like a side point. It's very important for the economics. She says, I'd rather see my books get pirated than this. Okay.
That's a bold statement, but wow.
Yeah, because what's happening is worse than pirating. By the way, remember I said pirating is this term that the copyright lobby invented to criminalize the other type of economics, which is the BitTorrent. So on the BitTorrent side, they call you a leech, right? They call you a leech because you're refusing to serve copyrighted content, let's say, right?
Yeah.
You're in a country like the United States and you're like, you know what? I don't want a SWAT team to like raid my computer, finding out that I'm serving all these files, right? So I'm not going to put this file up, but I'm going to download it. I'm going to watch it, with my family, with the movie Colossus, right? But but I won't like serve it. Like I bet you the movie Colossus is available like on BitTorrent right now, right? If I don't have BitTorrent, I've very rarely used it, but there was like Popcorn Time, which made it super easy. Have you ever seen Popcorn Time?
But you got me curious about this lady now. Like, why is she so serious about like not having her book like
okay. So let's go to that. So I just want to say Popcorn Time was like a program that used BitTorrent under the hood, and it streamed movies to you, but it was as easy to use as like iTunes. Okay. People said, oh, this stuff is geeky, right? And we're trying to make it less geeky. Like that's the whole point of like what we're trying to do, right?
Maybe me.
Exactly. Like make it useful. And then I need this course to explain like how all this works under the hood. But like That's what Popcorn Time did. So Popcorn Time was essentially here. Let's look at a screenshot of it.
I like
Popcorn
that.
Time allowed you to images. Okay, so it's probably like a screenshot of it. This is what Popcorn Time looked like, just like iTunes, right? You literally could watch
looks like a better Netflix.
Right, better Netflix. And keep in mind what's under the hood: an open source decentralized protocol, BitTorrent.
Mm.
And it would connect to whatever through this thing which I explained, distributed hash table, in this case Kademlia, by that guy Petar Maimumkov. It would find the computers that are willing to seed the file, to send it to you. Okay, presumably these computers were not in the United States, and so they were not as worried about US enforcement. But my point is that wherever they were in the world, people were able to download these movies. Now, here is what's interesting about it. The infrastructure cost goes to zero, or nearly zero, the more people agree to share the load, okay, of that. And so what happens is, go ahead, please.
No, I mean, I think it's making me feel like it hinges a lot on the quality of the content, which is good, because that should be the case, not the people controlling, I don't like people controlling who sees it. I like the quality controlling, who gets to see it. So go aid, sorry.
Yeah, no, that becomes important. But the thing is copyright. So the last 300 years.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's another hurdle.
So look at copyright. Fine, I'm going to talk about this lady, because the copyright's actually owned not by the makers of these things. Okay, the copyright is owned by the record labels that buy the rights. Okay, and the same thing happens to the publishing houses. So this lady's an author, and this is what's happening because of AI. So like copyright was like, okay, we need to secure these rights for these people to control. Remember how I said the secondary sales, are okay. But the primary sale, the primary streaming of the movie, right, and all this stuff, if you don't have a copy, then you can't do it. And by the way, secondary sales, why? Then the question is, why can't you stream Popcorn Time? You have a copy of the movie. Let's say you bought it legally, right? Why can't you go and share it? And the reason is because you're making more copies. Other people are making copies of the movie. It's not like you are sharing it out to other people. Understand? And even there was an interesting case, Internet Archive lost recently a very important case about digital lending. Okay, and it basically said, can we operate as a library? Can we scan all of these books and lend them out like a library? Okay, and I'm not a lawyer, but like the current response was, no, you can't, for some reason. Okay, and that was the rationale. But my point is this: that if you have a movie and you're letting others copy the movie, then that's not what's it's not analogous to reselling your copy of the book. It's letting other people create their copies of the book through digital means. All right. This is the important part, is that the cost of creating a digital copy of something is nearly zero. Nearly zero. So World After Capital is a book by Union Square Ventures partner Albert Wenger. I met him here in New York. Union Square Ventures invested in Twitter early on. Okay, they're the guys they're like the East Coast VC that's like very well known. And he writes in World After Capital, which is a free book, he puts it online, is that we are entering a post-scarcity world. And he says attention is what's scarce, right? And he's basically saying that the marginal cost of any copy is zero now. Okay, so like the marginal digital technology, if this ever loads, the marginal cost of a copy, meaning once you've created this thing, right, the marginal cost is zero. So things are easily copied now. And so we need to rethink copyright. Also AI, right now, the Hollywood is on strike because they're saying, well, now you could create unlimited content. So you start to question, why do we need copyright control? Why do we need this economic system where the publisher can control? So yeah, so let's go back to this lady. So this is what happened to this lady. She's like, I'd rather would see my books get pirated than this. What happened was She says, I thought I saw it all when it came to making me angry. I know what to expect from Amazon and Goodreads, not much. But this is what happens. Garbage books getting uploaded to Amazon where my name, she says, is credited as the author. People have analyzed her style or whatever with AI, put up books, and claim that she wrote them using her name.
Wow.
Okay. This is the new battlefield. So
I didn't know about this.
So this lady goes, to add insult to injury, these sham books are getting added to my official good file.
Okay.
Okay. A reasonable person might think I control what books are shown on my Goodreads profile, but no. You don't. If you need to have your Goodreads profile corrected, you have to reach out to volunteer librarians on Goodreads, which requires joining a group. But it gets worse. She complained on Twitter. An author responded she had to report 29 illegitimate books. Okay. This is not an issue of copyright. This is not an issue of copying her books. This is an issue of trademark where her name is being used as a trademark to sell books. See that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's trademark protection, which I am more sympathetic to trademark protection because it reduces confusion of who is actually behind selling the book, right? It's more an identity. But look at what, so there's a flood of AI content that's being published, sometimes attributed to authors in a misleading or fraudulent manner. How can anyone reasonably expect working authors spend every week for the rest of their lives policing this? And if authors don't police it, they will certainly hear about it from readers concerned about these garbage books who credulously brought this crap and have complaints. Or the authors might not hear anything at all and lose a potential reader forever. Okay. But it gets worse because when she tried to reach out, I don't see it here, but she didn't have standing because she didn't have the copyright. You know who had the copyright was her publisher.
Wow, because it was under her name and
right. And her publisher didn't reach out.
Weird.
So think about this. You wrote the book, you sold rights to the publisher because under capitalism you get an advance, right? Survive on that advance.
Music industry, same thing. Yep.
Right, music industry. So often you don't make anything on your first album, right? Because they take it out of your royalties.
Yeah, and sometimes they put the marketing budget on you as well.
So they have these contracts of adhesion, which basically are one-sided contracts. You sign them where you're nobody, right? And again, decentralized comes to the rest.
It's funny because these companies control who sees what. So like you literally have to kind of like bow to their protocols. That's wild. Yeah, I can see it. This is interesting. Wow.
It's the record labels that serve to benefit from this industry, and they have been. They're making money.
Yeah.
They're the ones freaking out, not the artists.
It's funny too, because I've said this before, because like I'm a creative advocate, if you will. And I think as a consumer, we're being robbed of quality content based on the people who control what we see. And even the algorithms saying, oh, we recommend this and that, which isn't the case at all. Because there's just obscure creatives, either authors or musicians or things like that who never get a shot because of the systems like this. So I'm all in. This is great.
This is awesome, man. So basically, you have another 10 minutes? I'll tie it all together.
Yep.
So we launched things like NFT Remix that we're working on launching. NFTs were a way for artists to finally like sell their own collection, right? And try to sell it on any marketplace and not be going through a certain Patreon or brand or whatever. Okay, that's one thing. So Web3 helps you to decentralize, to own. People say, oh, I own my own coin balance. But think of it on the other hand, who is issuing these coins? Who's issuing these NFTs, right? They also own their smart contracts, right? So we, Intercoin, like we help people with their smart contract. And like who are the customers is people who want to own their stuff. So going back to what I was saying before, so let me tie it together. So qbix, right? And by the way, just as an aside, one more aside, Elsevier and these publishing for science. Okay, science is being gate kept through journals. Okay, and so extracting rents, let's say. So there is a again, it's piracy. Okay, so I'll explain what I mean. In science, if you publish something, you could publish it in a preprint like archive this way, and the preprints are put here. However, there's no peer review, so anyone can print anything. All right, like that thing with the superconductor at room temperature, like there needs to be peer review and replication of like results. So what happens is that the peer review is, again, it's held by gatekeepers. There's a system of gatekeepers, and again, capitalistic, meaning they own the published materials. Okay, and they charge a lot. Elsevier charges universities a lot. In order for universities to have access to any of this, it's like LexisNexis for law and whatever, they're gatekeeping a lot of this information. Okay, and one lady started this thing called I forgot, science piracy website. This is not the Pirate Bay. This is a different one, Sci-Hub. Okay, Sci-Hub, basically it was like the file sharing for scientific results. Okay, and they are infringing on copyright. Okay, but yeah, so basically they're not in the United States, and they lost by default and so on. Okay, and they have to cycle through domain names because of the DNS system, which I spoke about. The DNS is not about the content, it's routing you to some specific servers owned by specific organizations. So what's happening with Sci-Hub is, again, it's all about democratizing the access to information, right? Whether we all want to watch Colossus, but the copyright holder says you can't watch Colossus, right? So, well, then that's it. Versus the economy of BitTorrent, which calls you the other way, calls you a leech if you are downloading something, a movie, but you're not willing to share it with others, right? And so I've been talking about the economic system. And again, democratizing access, like you're saying, we don't have good content. Well, the reason we don't have access to good content as a public is because the gatekeepers are trying to extract rents from it. Makes sense? And the gatekeepers are not the original artists. They're typically like Netflix or whatever. And they have some aspects of alignment with your interest or the artist's interest, but often not. Like when Netflix canceled The Tick. I used to love The Tick, but it can't be renewed because no one wants to renew them.
My question still kind of remains is that I'm curious what incentive is there, or who would be incentivized to be a seeder per se, who would, like, basically, if you're not benefiting from hosting those files, or maybe you are, I'm trying to figure that out. In your perspective, what should that look like? I guess is my question. Like, what's the incentive economic behind seeding? Economic incentive.
So that's a major question, and we even had an entire article and topic on this. Intercoin, who pays for storage, and why would you pay? Because, like, think about NFTs. Like, NFTs are on the blockchain, but the actual content is stored on some server, right?
Exactly.
Someone's got to pay for hosting all that, right? And so I had this discussion with MadeSafe guys. So the MadeSafe guys run an amazing forum and an amazing software that's going to be better than IPFS. I'm coming out. Look at their forum. It's like they're always on it since 2006. Okay.
Wow. And that, yeah, you don't ever see those kind of numbers on. Wow.
You see that? Like,
Yeah.
these guys are all in for years, since 2006. And this forum software came out like 5 years ago or 7 years ago. And so they have been using it.
So what's their
They
take
are
on it?
impressive.
Yeah.
So I've been talking about like who pays for storage. And okay, so like we had economic discussions in the past, you know, about this stuff. And I stopped in and I was talking about yeah, so this is like, I was talking about the consensus, and I was talking about wait. There we go. Let's see. One of my topics was the economics of storage. All right.
I love hash masks.
Yeah, right.
Underrated. They're before Bored Ape Yacht Club. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, this? Oh, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So you got to tell me about that.
Mhm.
Like the idea is, look, you've got the economics of storage. I linked them to this piece I wrote, okay, to debate, because these guys take the idea, the position that, yeah, you'll just your software will by default simply seed whatever you're downloading. Okay, so it's all encrypted, so you won't know what anyone is seeding. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's what MadeSafe is saying. I'm moving away now from the legal and the copyright considerations, economic I'm moving.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, my mind immediately jumps to like seeding, but not really knowing what you're seeding, and that makes it okay. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like if you kind of is obfuscated the what they're actually seeding, I mean, does that help to kind of like blur the lines? I'm not trying to make it shady. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, that's all good.
I'm rattling my brain on I constantly rattle my brain on this, and so yeah. So
Please
where do
interrupt.
they land?
Please interrupt, because this is going to be more interesting in people watching this if I
Mhm.
right, because
Mhm.
you probably have the same questions. So like if you're
Mhm.
asking a question, then probably like 10 other people's going to have these questions.
Yeah. I hope so. They're like, that guy doesn't know anything.
Fine.
But
Yeah,
no,
everyone.
like it still kind of leaves me in the same boat with like the incentive. Like I can see people like how we were talking before, when someone downloads something back in the day with Kazaa or whatever, P2P file sharing, and you kind of just like forget, and you just become a seeder because of how their system works. After the download, it automatically switches to seeding, and unless you catch it, you don't actually know. But it does mean that, and if that, in like how we were talking about, your downloads are quicker if a lot of people are seeding, like, and everyone wants speed, and maybe not just locally, but all around the world. So if everyone's seeding this popular content, so in that sense, like the popularity of the content sort of helps propel it to have that sort of seeding, and no one really cares that they're offering up their would bandwidth be the right term to seed it per se, because like it's like a trade-off. So that's kind of like, but that doesn't apply to everything. Not everything has this like viral sensation tied behind it in terms of content, but it still needs to be out there for the world. So in terms of that, a website just getting its start, or obviously someone would. You can see what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to figure
Oh, I
out.
totally see. Like you've hit upon the main thing, which is like a file that's not popular, right?
Mhm.
Posted on a few computers, might even disappear, right?
Mhm.
Talk to the freenet guy. That's how freenet works. It's a file that's not accessed very much.
Mhm.
Simply people have to make way for files that are.
Mhm.
You've hit upon the main thing, which is, look, the more popular a file is, by definition, that means that more computers are copying it to themselves, downloading it, right?
Mhm.
And so guess what? When the next computer, the N+1 computer comes, if a good proportion of the people aren't leeches, right, and they're making it available after having downloaded it, then the N+1 computer has N computers, or a good chunk of N, to choose from, right? And so it's self-balancing, unlike the YouTube, where it could be like, well, the servers are overloaded. Like, have you ever remember Twitter fail whale? This was like early on when Twitter first launched. Like I
Mhm.
said,
Oh yeah.
remember this?
Didn't they
Like,
sell that or something? I remember I read an article on
yeah,
that image. Yeah.
yeah, like, dude, this is, I guess, the benefit of being this old is that I
Yeah.
remember how all these services started. So I took you through like BitTorrent and Kazaa, right, and how they went to make Skype and help the world, right? So this is the opposite of that. This is a privately owned venture funded by who? Venture capitalists, right? So they put capital into a company, they then sell it to the public with the IPO, and the public forever has these earnings calls, right? oh, how did you do this month? How did you do this quarter? Have you made money? Have you extracted rents from your users, right? And so there's always this idea that, hey, the user content needs to be monetized and on Twitter's terms, right? And whoever runs Twitter ultimately calls the shots. So this is very, very different than the economics of a decentralized ecosystem, like MadeSafe or like Kazaa or like all of these. And the difference is this. First of all, everyone shares the load. So if something becomes popular, it's not that they all hammer one server or one server farm owned by one company, but actually they share the load, right? And so getting to IPFS, what is IPFS pinning, right? It's that. It's the idea that just like BitTorrent seeding, okay, pinning is saying that I'm willing to share this file also, okay? And that is actually self-balancing. So if one file gets popular, that means, let's say, 1 million computers downloaded that file or that video or whatever, but then half of them or 10% of them make it available to others, you see. So the trade-off, like you said, this trade-off is everyone does work instead of just the one YouTube, but they do much less work. Everyone just does a little bit. And that's what happens with open source. So if you go to like Wikipedia, what happens is, unlike Britannica, which is, again, capitalist, meaning there's a corporation, Britannica, right? It was very famous. They sold door to door, this library of encyclopedias. But then the web came out, and Wikipedia was like, hey, actually, we could have everyone edit and everyone contribute. And some people will be editors. They'll spend more time. And so the Wikipedia has this cool thing. It's analogous to peer review in science, which is that some people want to make edits and then they say, well, actually, we disagree. This is too biased, or this needs to be sourced, or this is just flat out wrong, or whatever, right? And then once this happens, the article most people see, like how many people click on this, right? Most people see a balanced result. And I want to actually ask your opinion on this, because this is a major qualitative difference between the open source gift economies, if you will. Okay, think gift economies. Why would anyone give a gift? Why would anyone seed anything or contribute to Wikipedia? Here's the thing. Let's put aside the motivation part for a moment. Why look at the results? The result is Wikipedia is a lot more balanced. Sure, there are some biases, whatever, but at least it takes into account most people's objections, because the objections were brought up on the talk page. Okay, it's like the peer review. Most science has only been published by these journals once it has passed through this filter. And notice that the people who are editing Wikipedia, and anyone can just go ahead and edit a lot of this stuff. Okay, look for edit. Okay, editing is currently disabled because it's been protected. There's a lot of edit wars that happen. There's like but let's look at one that's not, because it's probably a featured article.
I think Vitalik has an article that it titles "Don't give Wikipedia money." Like that was one of his famous articles.
Oh, well, that's a different thing. Yeah, don't give Wikipedia money because they're sitting on piles of cash, like they have at least $70 million.
Yeah, don't let me derail it.
So like you could, if you know how to edit this, right, you have to learn how to do all this and do it properly, right? Like Stack Overflow. Why does anybody write an answer on Stack Overflow? Because people have that motivation. And there's a very good video I encourage other people to watch by Dan Pink. He also wrote a book on this, but just watch the video. It's faster.
Yes, I mean, social influence has its own, currency, if you will.
Social
you get investments based on how many people use your app, not how many people are paying. Which it's interesting when you look at that. So,
in other words,
it's the potential. So the potential has the value. So, let's see. I did think it's something interesting while you were talking, and it was the fact that in a certain system, with this, slow content would be an indicator of social acceptance. So you're like, if this is buffering really slowly, it just means that as a society, we have almost, it's maybe it's an unpopular opinion, and it would be kind of funny just to see a system that worked like that, where you became aware of social acceptance based on how quickly the information or content loaded for you. Like that's really cool thought to have.
That's I mean, you could see how many people are seeding the movie, right? How many people download it.
Sure. Yeah, you could have the analytics, but I feel like you'd be able to even not have to post the analytics. Like it would just be a known thing. Oh, if it's loading slow, or I have to let it load for a long time before I can even watch it instead of instantly, you would just know that. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that you're part of a smaller group of people who care about this content. But like you can just see if you're really up with popular culture or not based on how much buffering time you have.
Oh, I see. The other way. So you're saying something's unpopular, it would take a longer time to find people who are online.
Exactly. Which isn't a bad thing. Like I still believe that people should have to compete, and that helps people create better content. And like if you're not competing, then really, like, what's the point? But some people have altruistic reasonings. I feel like,
So let's talk about those altruistic reasonings and being behind a viral meme or viral content, right? Like J.K. Rowling, she was on welfare, right? She was getting these safety nets. And most people on welfare, they don't justify the cost in the sense that they don't become billionaires, right? But it's like a VC investment in your population. J.K. Rowling created the Harry Potter franchise, right? Sat there for years. She got rejected by publishers. But because she had that safety net, she didn't give up and work at McDonald's, right? She continued. And now it creates billions of dollars and jobs and whatever, and people like Harry Potter. So being behind that, whether you're financially independent or whether you're on welfare and getting a helpful hand, people can be out there. And that's why I'm a big proponent of UBI also, is that people can, spend 20% of their time working on what they want. And
I mean, yeah, no, I agree. I feel like with me too, my creative capacity is expanded like tenfold, if I get an injection, and like the stress is gone and I can actually like have my, my brain is mine finally again. Yeah.
There's been a study where poverty drives down the effective IQ of people. So there's actually economic argument, huge economic argument to be made, which most people who just talk about basic economics, they miss this fact that people who their stress level is down, okay, but even like just from a point, so they're not distracted from like, oh, I might lose my house, I might have to move into like a tiny apartment with my kids, right? Moratorium on evictions, right, is like decidedly like anti-capitalist in that the landlords can't collect their rent, like that's against property rights. And but a million people who are housing insecure and constantly thinking, oh, I'm about to be evicted, right, are probably less productive. And the effective IQ of people actually goes down. Multiple studies have shown this, that if you don't have a lot of money, it's like a small stack at a poker table, okay? First of all, you can't take that many risks with your small stack. You can go all in a few times. Takes one time, you lose everything, and you fly out of the tournament, right? As opposed to a guy who could do unlimited rebuys like Donald Trump.
Your bankroll's infinite.
Yeah, he just goes to his family like, hey guys, I got bankrupt again. Can you like give me
Martingale forever? And yeah, that's the betting strategy to double up every time.
Yeah, that's a guy that takes advantage of it completely. So for people who don't know, Martingale, right, is doubling the bet. But the irony is you shouldn't double, you should triple, because if you double, then you only win $1. After all that risk, you win $1.
Well, your bankroll might suffer, but if it's infinite, then you're good to go.
Well, no one's got an infinite bankroll, but
except the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, except even there's constraints on, you can't just print like $2 quadrillion tomorrow, because
they have to articulate why, and those articulations are disagreeable at best.
Oh, look at that. Silicon Valley Bank, another bailout for Donald. But I was thinking about like before 2004, there's even a movie made about Donald. he went broke multiple times. Okay, like 1990, last minute bridge loan, bailout, like all this stuff he was given. But he wasn't.
Yeah.
If he wasn't given that by these banks, he would not be
Mhm.
able to run for president. No one would know him. You know, he even told his daughter, like, you see that homeless guy? Like, I'm poorer than that homeless guy, because he was negative. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, Donald Trump rolled the very
So
big dice roller.
yeah, we've concluded that support helps you thrive. And getting back to Cedars support the content, right? And like I am still racking my brain and about this. But I definitely think it would be interesting if there was something where early Cedars benefited in some way, and you almost act as like a scout for content that could potentially become something. And I love that. Like for me, I have that mentality. Like I do feel like I see trends ahead of time, not to like toot my own horn, but like, you know, like it's always hindsight is 2020. Like, dang it, I was thinking about that way earlier. But like you know, you don't have the capacity to like fulfill that. But if you look and see people who are building things that you know are on the up and coming for social acceptance, then I feel like you should have a benefit and being an early seeder, right? I do think that there should be an economic benefit to seeing things that advance our civilization in a you know a fruitful direction. I feel like that should be a career choice, you know.
But it is. Let me tell you who does that, and that is investors. If you get
right,
right. No, but that's really important, because every meme, every book, like if you invested in Harry Potter franchise early, right? And if you invested in the Pepe token early, right? Or Bitcoin, right? This is exactly
right. Yeah, that is that. Yeah, sure.
That is that. And it's something called a bonding curve. Okay. Or as curation markets is what this is an important point. This is where the crypto industry is able to move away from a gift economy and actually reward the early adopters with actual profits in money terms. Okay. So I wanted to play this really quickly, Dan Pink, and then this is the topic. You're actually going to love this, because curation markets and bonding curves, they say the same thing. They are about finding the content, the diamond in the rough, and being rewarded if you're right, because other people will come after you. Okay. It's actually something also called a Keynesian beauty contest. So John Maynard Keynes, who's the father of the kind of economics that governments love to use today, okay, stimulus. Keynes was describing a beauty contest where the judges are rewarded for selecting the most popular faces among other judges, rather than those they may personally find more attractive. So it leads to, you see, so that's the stock market. So he's trying to explain that the stock market is essentially a Keynesian beauty contest. In other words, you're not trying to actually find the ones that are what you think are the most beautiful. You are trying to find the ones that other people.
I don't want to live in that society, man. Who's actually deciding in a society like that?
Prediction markets. This is what prediction markets are all about.
Yeah, I get that. But again, like in prediction markets, like if everyone's predicting based on someone else's thought, like whose original thought is it?
Well, it's not. Like throughout biology, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, there's this hypothesis called the sexy sun hypothesis. Okay. And it basically says that women are specifically choosing to mate with a certain male because they go out there and throughout, the first period of their life when they're not fertile yet, they observe who is a sexy son, like who is the most desired by females in that during their lifetime, right? They're going to find a man because they think that will produce the son that would be the most desired. You see, so it's like it's meta.
Yeah.
It's a Keynesian beauty contest in nature.
people are always like, your babies would be so cute.
Yeah. Just like
That's flattering, right? Yeah.
Like a short girl might go for a really tall dude.
Yeah, to counteract the. Yeah, I get it.
All the tall girls are like, come on, what are you doing? I need that guy. Like you can have.
That's my match. I got it.
So many tall girls are like always saying this, right? They're like,
Mhm.
oh, I need a tall guy. Why do all these short girls go for tall guys? Because the short girl wants to counteract her shortness,
I
right?
get it. They care about the generational stuff.
Yes, it's interesting why women go for taller guys in general. I think height for women is like weight for men. Like most men would not date someone who is heavier than them, and most the women would not date a man who's shorter than them. It's like
It's
a
all
little.
speculative for anyone listening. So
I was talking generalities, like most, 80.
yeah.
I would say even
We
more.
live in a weird time where someone might get offended. So
Yeah, you get look. The truth is offensive. Look, I'll do a more offensive one. Just it's not offensive. It's beauty for women is like money for men. In the sense that they pejoratively say gold digger, whatever, right? But think about it. A woman looking for a well-off man is analogous to a man looking for a beautiful woman. Like they pass up all these other women, and these women pass up all these other men, right? And they're upfront about it. They're like, I'm Leonardo DiCaprio. I only date women up to 25 or whatever it is, right?
yeah. I think
Right?
it's lower now, but
Is it? Yeah, right. I don't know. The guys are doing that forever. But the economics, I like to be a little controversial if I think I have the facts on my side because I love the debate. I'm gonna go speaking with I interview people, as you see, like I interview Noam Chomsky, right? I interview all these people, and I want to interview the red pill community guys, especially the girl there. There's one girl, I forgot her name, Pearl Davis. So a lot of them get the economics of this wrong. I just want to this is the interesting thing they say. So they're just disillusioned with marriage. They think that there's a good chance people will cheat and get divorced or whatever, initiate divorce, right? Because it's legal now. And they're like, never get married. And they also say never get a woman with children. Okay, this is like their extreme position. But here is the thing: if no one gets married to the women, and they have children because they're gonna have, unless everyone is celibate. We're talking about unless everyone's asexual, and that actually happens in Japan. In Japan, people don't want to have sex, so young people, like a huge amount, are just opting out of sex, which is kind of crazy. Okay, literally a huge amount. So I'm not talking about an asexual community. There, you could, the economics of sex would be whatever. Okay, no, I am talking about the economics of sex in the way that Tice and Baumeister were talking about economics of sex. So there are some economists who talk about sex and why, because women's reproductive fertile periods shorter than men's, right? And they run out of eggs at some point. So that actually leads to a lot of the imbalance. Why men think about sex more than women and why men are chasing sex more is because there's more of them, more demand, right? And less supply for fertile whatever. But getting back to the point, if men were to have sex with women and they would have children together, right? And they wouldn't get married, they wouldn't stick around, they would continue to have sex with other women. Then these women would then have children and be single mothers. Okay. And then there's the red pill community says, well, don't date any single mothers. So at first you don't get married, then you have children, but you don't stick around to raise those children. And then you don't date the single mothers either. Then what happens is you have a group of men who are like Leonardo DiCaprio or something, all competing for the youngest 20-year-old whatever women. And it could be like 60 years old, which is like so weird. And it's just untenable. Like that economic system is just not viable if that was how it is. So I'm just trying to say, I think the end game is it's not coherent. And I want to discuss that with
it's selfish. in my opinion. So
well, we're long past selfish. Like this society is selfish. Like we live on a credit card.
Yeah, but they justifiably selfish. Greed is good, that kind of crap.
Yeah, they justify it. And look, you get married, and then when you get divorced, you lose everything because you're gonna have to pay alimony and child support, and the wife gets
Yeah,
half.
we don't have to dig too far. That's a whole like podcast on its own.
So getting back to this, but you see, I'm coming at it from the economic side. So
Yeah.
getting into curation markets, I want to say that people are, first of all, super willing and have been super willing to participate in gift economies. You ask, why would they host? Why would they produce content for free? Right? But they do. Everything on Wikipedia has been produced for free. And
But
not
we'd say for exposure, right? Like just to put my own
well, how
thought
much
in there.
exposure is there? Like if you look at the history, where is this?
It's either altruism or exposure. Like that's in my brain. That's how I can justify it.
Altruism. So yes, it's a little bit more than so. Altruism isn't the Ayn Rand, because you talk about selfishness, right? Ayn Rand talked about the virtue of selfishness, and she says, well, altruism is something that is dangerously, it smells like you're self-sacrificing yourself for others.
Okay.
And she actually said, well, she left the communist Russia after the revolution, right? She was a Russian Jew atheist, and she rebelled very heavily against collectivism. And she developed these theories that were the exact opposite. And many people read these theories, including Paul Ryan, who's in Congress, okay, and many other people. So in her way, selfishness is a virtue, and she's trying to challenge the religious ideas, because she was an atheist, right? To say, look, all that is, quote, mysticism, is what she said. The mystics would say, oh, that's what she called the mystics, that helping others, right, is a virtue. She's saying, no, helping others is a virtue only if you want to do it, but you don't have to do it. It's if you never help anyone and you are only selling things for profit, you're actually helping people, but they're paying you money. She saw that world as a more virtuous world. Okay, and I will give her this: that under the categorical imperative, if the thing was a universal law, would society work? Yes, it would work. That is like laissez-faire capitalism. Let's just say she didn't believe in laissez-faire; she believed in government, copyrights, patents. She believed in all that intellectual property. In fact, she was very big on it. But in terms of the market operating, she said, well, capitalism is more moral because I set the terms. You want the terms, there you go. No one is forcing anyone to do anything, you see, like that, except for the intellectual property enforcement, of course. But so she said selfishness is a virtue in the sense that she said, who are the people selling all the fruits and all the vegetables and inventing things? It's the people who do it for profit, okay? So what she missed is a lot of people who do it for no profit and no notoriety. Like, who is this guy? Lois, whatever. Okay, he made this contribution to, or maybe that's not a good example, but the one below him is good. Kashmiri made this specific change. Okay, and you could see the change here.
Yeah,
and like he did all this stuff. I guess he used the visual editor. Why did he do it? No one's going to know that Kashmiri, you know.
Is it because truth is important to him? Like, I mean, I'm just trying to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, he seems to care that others reverted his edits, and he see.
Right. But it also, yeah. Okay. So he's editing things that are attributed to himself. So it does actually kind of, fall in the category of, like. You know what I'm saying? Like why people want to have a ton of followers on Twitter.
I think he wants to affect the truth, right? He wants to make sure his understanding of the truth is out there.
His understanding of the truth. Got it. Yep.
That's why people are motivated, is they want others to know. That's why scientists publish for free. Think about that. Throughout history, they raced to publish and give away their scientific discoveries for free for everybody, right? Why do they do that? Why don't they charge, like in the pharma industry, where they invent a vaccine and they patent the vaccine? And if you try to make the vaccine and save lives, they're like, yeah, you saved some lives, but you didn't pay the royalties, and now we're going to sue you because you actually can't simply save people's lives without paying us. You know what I mean? So scientists outside of the pharma industry, they don't have these incentives. They just do it for free. It's a gift economy. Why do they do it? Okay, it's there's been questions. Why do they do it? And there's actually I've written over the years about why they do it. But there's a good talk by Stephen Pink. So I want to play these few seconds from Stephen Pink. These are the three things behind what is commonly understood as altruism. Why does a gift economy work? And here's why it works.
About money, and they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are three factors.
Wait 1 second. Let's go a little back.
The table. Pay people enough so that they're not thinking about money and they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are three factors that the science shows lead to better performance. Not to mention personal satisfaction. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is our desire to be self-directed, to direct our own lives. Now, in many ways, traditional notions of management run afoul of that. Management is great if you want compliance, but if you want engagement, which is what we want in the workforce today as people are doing more complicated, sophisticated things, self-direction is better. Let me give you some examples of this, of almost radical forms of self-direction in the workplace that lead to good results. Let's start with this company right here, Atlassian, an Australian company. It's a software company, and they do something really cool. Once a quarter on a Thursday afternoon, they say to their developers, for the next 24 hours, you can work on anything you want. You can work on it the way you want. You can work on it with whomever you want. All we ask is that you show the results to the company at the end of those 24 hours in this fun kind of meeting, not a star chamber session, but this fun meeting with beer and cake and fun and other things like that. It turns out that one day of pure undiluted autonomy has led to a whole array of fixes for existing software, a whole array of ideas for new products that otherwise had never emerged. One day. Now, this is not an if-then incentive. This is not the sort of thing that I would have done 3 years ago before I knew this research. I would have said, you want people to be creative and innovative? Give them a freaking innovation bonus. If you do something cool, I'll give you $2,500. They're not doing this at all. They're essentially saying, you probably want to do something interesting. Let me just get out of your way. One day of autonomy produces things that had never emerged. Right, let's talk about mastery.
So that was autonomy. What do you think? Right?
I actually have used this to explain things in the past, and I completely agree. It's funny, it kind of calls back to what we were talking about earlier with the creative capacity and having those needs met and the ability to actually solve problems without the societal stress that looms on certain people, especially in impoverished areas. It's fantastic.
Once the needs are met and you're a millionaire, right? And you can have a comfortable life. Steve Jobs wasn't showing up to work in order to earn the next $1 billion. He was there to put a ding in the universe, right? He was there
to solve problems, right?
And so that's what I think. I think the society has this excess. They can reward millionaires and billionaires with more billions of dollars, but that money would have been much better spent giving everyone a UBI, because then the people would have a higher IQ, more autonomy, and they would chase mastery and purpose. So here's the other two.
Mastery is our urge to get better at stuff. We like to get better at stuff. This is why people play musical instruments on the weekend. You got all these people who are acting in ways that seem irrational economically. They play musical instruments on weekends. Why? It's not going to get them a mate. It's not going to make them any money. Why are they doing it? Because it's fun, because you get better at it, and that's satisfying. Go back in time a little bit. I imagine this if I went to my first economics professor, a woman named Mary Alice Schulman. And I went to her in 1983 and said, Professor Schulman, can I talk to you after class for a moment? Yeah. I got this inkling. I got this idea for a business model. I just want to run it past you. Here's how it would work. You get a bunch of people around the world who are doing highly skilled work, but they're willing to do it for free and volunteer their time, 20, sometimes 30 hours a week. Okay, she's looking at you somewhat skeptically there. Oh, but I'm not done. And then what they create, they give it away rather than sell it. It's going to be huge. I mean, she truly would have thought I was insane. Okay, it seemed to fly in the face of so many things. But what do you have? You have Linux powering 1 out of 4 corporate servers in Fortune 500 companies, Apache powering more than the majority of web servers. Wikipedia. What's going on? Why are people doing this? Why are these people, many of whom are technically sophisticated, highly skilled people who have jobs? Okay? They have jobs. They're working at jobs for pay, doing sophisticated technological work. And yet, during their limited discretionary time, They do equally, if not more, technically sophisticated work, not for their employer, but for someone else for free. That's a strange economic behavior. Economists who look into it, why are they doing this? It's overwhelmingly clear. Challenge and mastery, along with making a contribution. That's it. What you see more and more is a rise of what you might call the purpose motive. Is it?
Yeah. So like people
Your
want...
intrinsical value. Sorry. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry. Yeah, this is as much your... I want to understand like how this resonates with you.
It does. Like I've always felt that for me is more important than a paycheck is my intrinsical value too. So I've tried to like blend the two, you know, like instead of just having, you know, the job and then the thing that they're kind of mentioning, I like to find something that has that crossover. So yeah, like feeling like the purpose or intrinsical value to the organization you're participating in for some reason does way more than, you know, money could ever provide. So and money's just like, to me, like a level of appreciation for contributing to someone else's dream, you know. You know, like I appreciate you this much or this much because you contributed to my dream and whatever. But I don't know, contributing to something that you just feel like should exist, you know, like they're talking about, was it Linux and Apache or thing like that? They are convinced like this should exist, and they're basically doing a service to society, but also it's something that they also want, and wanting it yourself is super important as well. Like that's what I always say whenever, you know, with my own entrepreneur things, and I've had to correct myself too, because a lot of times I'll build things in search of a problem, but I feel like building things that you want to use, like desperately use, that would benefit you in your life, and you'll come to find that others have the same things and it would benefit the same way. And hopefully that's, you know, what kind of springboards you into A rounds of investing and stuff like that or whatever. But again, like I see this. There's more to it, or am I like,
Yeah,
I feel
just
like this
last one, which
there's
is
a lot to unpack already. Yeah. Okay.
that's how I started qbix. Yeah, I was like, I need to create this thing because it doesn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's nothing more motivating. Like, you know, when you go to a school, because I was teaching in class, I'm going to be teaching a course, right? And I've taught at universities. I've taught at NYU. I've taught at Cooper Union. I was an engineering school in the city in Manhattan, and I've taught at Brooklyn College also.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, give back to the community. I love teaching. And one thing I noticed is the biggest thing in teaching isn't the giving of information. That you can do. That's a commodity. You could do that online. The biggest thing is motivation. When people are motivated, they can go online and they can find the stuff. And if you found it for them as a teacher, right? You've put together a textbook or course or whatever online, which is what this is. They'll find it, they'll do it. But the motivation comes from this. It comes from two things. One is you need to get their trust. And the way you get their trust is you come and tell them things that nobody else would say. That's how Donald Trump got people's trust, is he would tell you things that the other politicians just wouldn't tell you, right? Hey, we all use loopholes. Hey, we all send people to war. We lie, whatever. He's like, I lie too. Oh, Donald Trump, you're such a truth teller. You said you lie. You know, you know, so you tell people what they say. Thank you. Finally, someone has, you know, I never realized this. Thank you for admitting it. That's how you get people to trust you. But then the most important thing is you explain to them why they're learning this. See, there have to be real problems that people want to solve out there in the world. And that's why I started qbix. Like if qbix wasn't solving anyone's problem, right? Why I got out of the entertainment business and I was a musician and got into this, because I'm actually solving more important and pressing problems than, hey, let's listen to yet another body of music. No offense to anybody. I used to be a composer, right? And I love it and it's good for me and I enjoy doing it. But I recognize that like helping, you know, cure cancer is more important. I'm not in that industry, but there was a hole I was trying to fix. But here's my point. If you present the idea to your students that people are suffering without a solution, and currently the solutions they use suck, right? Like, I don't know, people used to use bloodletting, you know, and leeches they thought you know, they were saving people. They weren't. All these kids were dying, right? And then somebody figured out little by little how to save some kids. And then now we save most, like all the kids almost, right? So now we've eliminated child mortality, which was a big problem. There's so many problems, right? Somebody invented the car, somebody invented this. So I guess my point is, if you get people to understand the problems and identify with, hey, I could put a solution out there and I'm not going to be a gatekeeper, right? Like Jonas Salk with the vaccine. He gave it away. He was one of the only vaccines ever. He just decided he's going to just give it away. Okay. If you don't gatekeep, I think you get that nice feeling that these other people out there in the world, anyone could take it and run with it and build something, and you won't even know, but they're going to be helping their community in some way, in something. I think that's a major motivator. And it's weird, right? Because you would think economically, no, I want a piece of that. I want to extract rents. I want to get paid. But no, like if you give it away and you're a millionaire already and you have like $5 million in today's money, I don't think that you're marginally much better off having 6 million or even 500 million or $5 billion. I think knowing that, okay, you have your 5 million and you're going to always live comfortably, just as an example. But these other people are going to be using what you did, right? And they can stream the Colossus of Forbin project all day long. Like, I don't mean to shit on entertainment. Like, entertainment is important. And with AI, like people, it's good for the soul, right? But I'm saying, like, can people use it without you gatekeeping them, right? And if the answer is yes, I think a lot of artists would love to see their work being recited, and a lot of the inventors would love to see their inventions being used without them even being involved. Like, they can come back in 10 years and be like, whoa, the iPhone's used all over the world. Like, I changed the world. That's awesome. And I'm still a millionaire and like I'm doing well. I think that's how Linus Torvalds feels. I think how Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the web, feels, and how Vitalik feels. Like, I don't think Vitalik wants to take a percentage of every Ethereum transaction forever and be like, ha ha ha, you know, I'm rich forever and I could own a lot of farmland in America, like Bill Gates. I think I think there's something to this mentality that, hey, I'm never going to see a penny from this, but I actually like that because I am not the bottleneck. I'm not in the way of maybe a poor kid from Kansas being able to grab a Linux machine with MySQL and Apache server or whatever and create their next thing, right? I don't want to be in the way of that kid. I don't want the entry price to be so high that the kid has to get an investor, and maybe he'll never get an investor because he lives on a farm. You see my point? So I think that idea of getting out of people's way,
Yeah,
is, I think,
being a step in the stairway. Yeah,
right.
it's
What
just
do you?
a really, like, a step in the stairway sounds like a real philosophical thing, but it helps me. I'm a visual person, so I like. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a lot of information. Oh wow, that's interesting. That's oh, was that there before? I was looking down, so I don't.
It was like 1 day ago. I posted this.
Wow, I feel like we're in sync in some weird way.
Let me wrap all this up, okay?
Yeah.
So 3 minutes, wrap up. So I started qbix because I wanted people to run their own servers and their own software on their own servers. Okay. Yes, there's all these governments and there's all these things that we, bigger things that we might get to eventually. But the idea is, if you want to build a community around anything, why give all your social capital to Twitter? Why have all your followers join you on Twitter? They should join you on your own site, right? And so that's one. Secondly, why give all your content to Twitter? Why don't you just put all your content into your site? So many of our clients, right, say, that's great. I can own my own content. I can be the gatekeeper to my own content. And so we give them that option. Like, we respect copyright. We say, okay, if you want to host it on your site, like, don't license it to the other guy, like the way that this lady did. And then she lost all of the, she can't even control her own content. So yeah, like, run it on your own site, do your own thing. And then the last thing is Intercoin. So Intercoin, getting back like full circle, right, got spun off because the blockchain technology has something that is unique. And the blockchain technology is, what it does is it allows the members of the community to have a say in how the community is run. and operates. Okay. So we didn't get to autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? There's also purpose. I'm not going to.
More and more organizations want to have some kind of transcendent purpose, partly because.
Okay. I'm not going to talk. You can watch that. But basically, the idea is that rather than a few people at the top of the organization calling the shots, which is what in qbix, that's what it is, right? The people who are recording this podcast get to decide what will be said, how it will be said, when it will be posted, all that, right? What if the community got to decide? And what if the community had a say and they earned credits for watching this? And if they became big enough and they earned enough credits, then they also got to participate and have their own show, right? And have people pay them. So it basically does what you're saying. It creates these bonding curves and these creation markets. And instead of doing things for free, you basically have the curation markets, which is what I was showing earlier. The curation markets are about the early adopters discovering content and upvoting it. And the upvote costs them money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a transfer of money, right? It's not like it's the Facebook stars. It's like, it doesn't cost me anything to like something, but in this system, it should, right? Likes should cost something. And so suddenly people are starting to put money into the system. And basically what it does is if you create community applications like the ones I'm doing here, and this is this is us, by the way, in Dubai.
That's awesome.
All of this, and this is me and Akon. This is me and the queen of a tribe in Africa, in the Congo. This is Tim Berners-Lee. I just put like some of the most famous people I know. So if you make social networks that look like this, right, and under the hood have blockchain, what you're getting is you're getting a network where you no longer have to have a gift economy. You don't have to rely on people just giving stuff away, but they actually get rewarded with your own token. And maybe your own token will come to be worth something based on how well your community does, right? Is to start something. And so the idea of Intercoin, as opposed to qbix, is, hey, let's give the control over to the members of the community, right? And maybe the director can renounce ownership. You know that thing, renounce ownership? So just like, you can walk away and leave behind basically a democracy of the members. And so the democracy has rules depending on whatever rules you want. Maybe it depends on how many tokens you have, then you have more votes. Or maybe every member has one vote, like in a democracy.
That's what I like.
You like that? So that's basically what Intercoin is. Intercoin, the values of Intercoin are basically, hey, let's make sound money, individual choice, and true democracy. And we're still building it, but over the last 5 years, we've built all these smart contracts, and they all embody these values. So at the end of the day, like, what is Intercoin? Intercoin basically goes beyond qbix, and it says, look, you could host the content locally, you could host it in your village, you could host it like Dr. Seuss. You could host it on the sea, you can host it with you and me, you can host it here and there, you can host it everywhere, right? But with Intercoin, it's also the tokens and the value and the voting and the governance and whatever is then distributed to the members of the community rather than being vested in the founder always.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Intercoin is about. Intercoin is about giving power to the people ultimately in the end.
Love it. Yeah, well, it's a lot. It's great. Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that segment.
Sorry, I know
pretty
like,
well thought out.
Record things, it takes on a different character, doesn't it? A little bit.
It does. Yeah, like no, it's for sure, because you think about how other people are translating what you're saying, and you're like careful about that. I mean, you do that with one-on-one, but it's at a much larger scale. But
yeah, so like no. I'm gonna probably publish this on YouTube, but I have a question for you. Like, should I give away this content? Like, given everything I'm talking about, right?
I think it absolutely benefits you in a way that, because I think if people stick around and get to know like the true core of why you're doing what you're doing, I think that helps you, get that kind of exposure you need to really get this thing up and running at the capacity it deserves. So yeah, I do think you should consider the gift economy when it comes to this content.
I can only afford it because I have a form of UBI, right? I have
Yeah.
some income or something. Otherwise, I would need to do that. So yeah, I can afford to give this away. I think it's good to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, people who learn enough can use Intercoin and qbix. But you know what's cool about this is that even though I give it away, we can still make money by people buying the ITR token once they understand how they can leverage this, and they could build their own community with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when they will come and they say, okay, now we've got all the free stuff. We have the knowledge, which is free.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get the product and services, and we need to buy Intercoin to, to work with the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the innovation of Web3. It's not just me, it's everybody. It's like, hey, we get to put out a token and everything's free. People can choose to use stuff completely for free, right? But if they want to take advantage of the network effect of Intercoin, right, and join all those other communities, then they're going to get the token. So you can have your cake and eat it too now. You no longer have to have just the gift economy. You can monetize some of it too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say at the end. So yeah, man, I'll put this online.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'll have to re-listen to it. It's I'll probably post it on my Twitter as well. I definitely enjoyed it for sure. I haven't racked my brain like this in a long time, but you definitely, like, I feel like you have answers that I want, and I'm like digging. So yeah, I think
a little arrogant. I'm going to say, out of all the people living in the world right now, I think I might be the top guy. I don't normally say this, having thought deeply through all of this and also built the solutions for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I want now to download it from my brain to a movement of people, right?
I know that feeling. Yep.
That's what I want to do at this point.
Yeah. No, I think we definitely have that in common, and I definitely as well see where I can kind of slide in and like I want to be able to like better communicate this to a broader audience, because not only it helps, like, when you get more people who are just as passionate. I mean, I think that's why it's great to post content like this online, is because you raise the chances of discoverability of those who want to contribute in certain ways that you may know or not know that you need to kind of get this thing moving along. So I think just for that reason alone, the potential to have others who also 100% would be all in on something like this, but they don't even understand the problem well enough to even know that they would want something like this. And I think that's the majority of society, is like, they don't really understand that there's a massive issue. They don't understand how big they're being robbed, and how much more potential they could have, if they creatively were liberated enough to be able to solve problems without having to worry about money and all that jazz, like we already spoke about. But yeah, man, like, there's a lot of things that would be getting solved here, and I think it definitely shows that you've put your time in.
What's interesting is everything you just said sounds a lot like Bitcoin 12 years ago, right? People were like, this is a revolution. People aren't realizing how much they're getting robbed by the fiat currency, right? And that revolution was like built by Ayn Rand, the sort of anarcho-capitalist, type people, right? And what I see now is what you're seeing here with the gift economy and with the
data revolution.
Right, the data is like, you can make your money, you can have your cake and eat it too. You could give it away, but also make money on the utility tokens and the ITR. So to me, it's like, let's say you want to join this movement, right? And if the people who join it early, the people who join it first, it's like the bonding curve, right? It's like buying Bitcoin back in like 2009, so 2010, or mining it, or putting your sweat equity, or doing something. So
yeah.
That it's like startups.
I looked at the Wayback Machine for like the first iteration of the Bitcoin website. I mean, it didn't improve that much, but like, it was just mostly text, so you have to get people who are willing to stick around to absorb the idea, rather than the pretty flashy, things that normally keep. Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's good now, but if you go to the Wayback Machine for when it initially launched, it's hideous. Have you done that?
I haven't, but it's
It's
fun to
pretty
say
cool,
that.
man. It's really, really cool. I got stuck doing this for hours last Saturday. I have a bitcoin.org, yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
then
That's
and
what
then
told
and
me
then
about
if you
it.
go back to like January 31st, 2009, you can click there.
Let's see.
And then it'll come up with a bunch of calendars. You can click. Well, the click on the March. See at the top right, it says March. Click the right arrow, because I think the images show up on the next one.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's it. But it's the information that was impactful, and the smart people who have the capacity to, stick around and absorb and actually, it's like it's similar to me. Like if they stick around and kind of understand what you're trying to accomplish, it's like, holy crap, like this is big, and it's those who, I don't know. I guess it's those who care about the problem enough to stick around and read, like, oh, this guy's trying to have a solution to something that I have an issue with. But I think it's even the first Ethereum website, like, it was hideous, in the beginning. And I'm a UI guy, so I've made decisions based on, and you shouldn't do this, but like, I like DigitalOcean. I mean, it's good, but the UI is what sold me. I'm like, the UI for DigitalOcean is fantastic, and so if yeah, this is terrible because we're talking about servers and stuff, and I'm admitting to UC, but I don't have many choices.
No,
But I love good UI. I love
I love Stripe. Also, I think Stripe is
Stripe. Yeah, beautiful UI, but and they anyway. I don't want. That's definitely my passion, is kind of getting good ideas up to par with that kind of.
maybe that's where you should come in.
Well, that's what I've been thinking all along, is like how to not only like communicate the idea quickly and but also to make it beautiful and so palatable and beautiful simultaneously, just showing how you're meeting the need. But I do feel like we have to explain why there is a need a little bit, because it's so early, that people don't understand on a wide scale. So yeah.
It's a huge vision, and obviously it's a different economic system, right? With UBI and gift economies, and maybe making money with bonding curves and utilities. Yeah, there's a ton. I think what we need to do is, how do we grow the community? So like the UI needs to be there, and the other piece needs to be like, is how do we manage the community? We need to get a community manager who
Which that's something I like. I do the community management. I mean, that's kind of like how I got in with Blockstack, now stacks.org, back in the day. Is I was a community member who just then started getting paid to be a community member, and then they used me for a lot more things. But that's how I sort of got my feet really wet in this sort of genre of thinking. Because they do try to solve a good bit of problems when it comes to data security, owning your data and things like that, which is fantastic. But yeah, anyway, but I came up from the community, and I think there should be more opportunities for that.
did they pay you in their own token, or did they pay you in dollars?
It was USD. And I mean, just because they are ridiculously like connected when it comes to investors and things like that. I don't know if you ever get a chance to look in the history, but it's pretty fascinating. But yeah, that's where I get a lot of my passion from, is being derived from there. But no, community, getting people to understand, keeping them kind of engaged, showing opportunities, polishing up the UI, making sure people understand the problem, and kind of synthesizing the content that's already there in a way that people can readily have available. We got the 3 clicks or less rule to get people to where they want to go. There's a lot of different things that you kind of like want to apply to help people because it's just the attention span, man. It's just so, and even for me, it's like, unless I've like put my phone down for a week or, stopped looking at screens for a while, like my attention span does get hit pretty hard. Not everyone are like you who can just be driven by their own curiosity rather than what's thrown in their face, so yeah, it's adhering to the attention span, unfortunately, of the greater society, and trying to get things kind of synthesized in a way that it can be delivered in 30 seconds or less. And, and then you also keep, you stay on top of mind for everyone. But also not like in an intrusive way, but you're, basically hitting the high points of what they care about. And, that's what gets you the, the clicks and such. So being relatable is all I'm trying to say. So there's those things that I feel like we could definitely improve on here. But I think to me the most difficult part has already been done. I'm not saying that UI and UX and community management and finding those pathways isn't difficult, but I do think the infrastructure part is what people get hung up on the longest, and sometimes never are able to achieve. They can put the flashy stuff in your face, but they can't like deliver, like a lot of projects you see. So you've kind of already built the infrastructure, and then it's really just putting a fresh coat of paint, and then some arrows so people know where to go.
I love how you're putting that. That's exactly what I was saying to our team yesterday on the call.
Oh, wow. That's what I'm saying, man. I feel like we're strangely in sync. I do know we're passionate about the same areas, like for sure, which is honestly, I never thought that I would find someone that is, in the same ultra niche thing, because it's like I would say things when I was younger, like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up because I don't think it's created yet, like I don't think the thing that I want to support the most is out there, or, things like that. But yeah, to find someone that's in the same, this ultra niche is pretty difficult. So I'm pretty thrilled that this connection was made. So yeah, I'd definitely like to lend a hand. I'm not in a place where the UBI situation is happening for me. So I still got to tend to those flocks, if you will. So, but no, I think I'd love to just stay connected with this stuff and be a part of it in whatever capacity I can, and hopefully that capacity can grow. Because even this conversation was pretty enriching. You get kind of bogged down with this like doomsday talk or the rhetoric that's being forced down your throat these days, and like looking between the lines and seeing the solutions that you've sort of like scouted out, or the articles you can quickly reference to validate your findings and things like that. It's nice to have sort of that. People just say stuff for the sake of saying things, and that's not necessarily, I don't think that's your angle at all. Like it's like you're trying to get people to understand that that this is a problem, and this is why, and here's your
Exactly.
here's the receipts. Yeah.
I'm like showing the screen. That's why my show, like most people show their head on their show, right? They're just talking. And I love to show my screen because it's like, it's not about me. I'm like backing up everything I'm saying. I'm weaving narrative with like mainstream materials. Yeah. Trying to get people to see that, hey, there could be a revolution. It's right in front of you, and you could opt out of the current system. And look, you don't have a UBI. I understand you need to make money, right? Many people play jazz as a hobby. Many people did science as a hobby, right? And they actually had a real job. Many people were music composers. Most Russian composers in the 19th century were, they had jobs because you couldn't make money as a composer, I suppose, back then. So I'm not saying, we do have some money and we could definitely like, pay people, right? And we're close around, and so we're subscribed, and we're doing the crowd fund. So hopefully in a couple months, like that wouldn't be a problem at all. And we pay people with Intercoin. We get people on the, like I said, it's like getting Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like right now, imagine if you were paid in Bitcoin, 2010. Like
Yeah,
the
I
top,
actually sometimes prefer that, like I like being paid in the ecosystem's token that I'm helping support because it makes sense because, it does well, you do well.
exactly. This is not like being paid with Safe Moon or something, which has its heyday and then goes to low amount. It's more like there's a lot of utility and more communities join like this thing, they'll have to buy the token. Anyway, I'm not here to show the token, but, but what I want to say is this. I want to say that like the way I like people to join the movement is when they're passionate, like you clearly are, right? We're aligned. And like now it becomes you join something that's bigger than yourself. A lot of the work's has been already done, and you can have that contribution of, hey, I made the UX better. I got people to actually understand what the heck this is, and maybe grow the community. So I say to everyone, and I'm going to say to you, like, if you want to join, put together like some bullet points or some document that says, this is what I will contribute. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'll do, right? And whatever your time commitment is. And then, yeah, you can be paid in the tokens, in the ecosystem token, right? And as we raise money in the crowd fund, they can also start to pay with USD. So yeah, that's basically it's all early stage. I mean, even though we've been around for 5 years, this is like early days because like the car works, the car runs, but now it needs a fresh coat of paint. Like people don't understand what is under the hood. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, I'm
we need
I'm motivated to be here. So I mean, I definitely, like I said, like the information I've derived from this call, has value as well. So yeah, I think it's definitely something I'm interested in partaking in. Just got to figure out how that looks. And I also like to take like a day to like almost like let your subconscious like synthesize the data that you've absorbed, and it's weird how like a night's rest and you'll wake up and you'll have like these weird ideas that you didn't go to sleep with. So I want to like see what comes out of my brain, as far as solutions to, getting people to kind of like understand this project and how the inner workings and the why behind the what and such. So yeah, I want to do that and kind of see what comes out and yeah, kind of see where this goes. And then even with Bitcoin and things like that.
Bitcoin is like they have the vision, they need the money, right?
And they have a established community, which is fantastic.
Right. They have all right a lot of the stuff that like we don't have that they have, and the stuff that they don't have we have. So what I say, like they're a perfect example of an Intercoin community customer, right? They come to us and they say, hey, let's let's build something, and then maybe you can interconnect Bitcoin into your community Intercoin network, right? And like we give them the software that they need to do everything, because the whole thing is, right, they have the idea, right? They have people, but what they don't have is they don't have this, they don't have that, they don't have like any of the software. And so yeah, like we come in there, we help them with that, and then their community starts using that, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's grown, but it's not grown in a meme coin kind of way where it's like no one does anything. All of their ideas about becoming the teaching platform or blockchain education, guess what? We can make that happen. So that's the partnership. I don't think like Bitcoin by itself, if there was no Intercoin project, might end up being a bunch of like vaporware, like people promising, but it's not coming together because someone had to sit down for 5 years and build it, right? And so we're that someone, and I think we can go to a lot of communities, not just Bitcoin, right? And be like, you guys have this vision, but unless you're Facebook or Twitter, you can't realize the vision, okay? So everything you're telling your community you're going to do, like 90% chance you're not going to do it.
Yep, it's fair.
We help you do it. So I think Bitcoin could be a very good thing if they work
for sure
with us,
Oh, I agree. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. And I'm kind of thinking, yeah, you know where we're at with that. So, Yeah, I'll definitely like I think this has given me a lot more like ammo per se. You know, but it's one of those things where it just takes a little bit of time to truly grasp the entire idea. I think initially in our kind of discovery call, I don't think I was like completely aware and things of that nature. I don't think it also didn't feel like it was more of a free flow kind of conversation, because I feel like we've benefited a lot kind of letting it kind of take its own shape. So yeah, I think this is cool, and I want to figure out how we can create some crossover there in whatever capacity, and kind of. But that's the thing; it's all about packaging, and I want to be able to package it in a way that makes sense and not where I lose their attention, you know, and or you know, something like that. Like it's nothing against any project out there. It's just people's attention span and their ability to sit and actually see the information rather than the you know, surface level stuff. You know, no one's willing to dig anymore. They just want to be spoon fed. So that's where I'm at.
It's got to be beautiful. It's got to be
Mhm.
visual, and it's got to be bite-sized chunks. Like every
Mhm.
thing has to be self-contained. Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
It's a lot
Yeah.
of work, but someone's got to do
It is, man. It is, but it's a lot of work, but it's definitely you're making it definitely, you know, worth it. So yeah. I I feel like I'm gonna be hitting you up a little bit more these days now. Like you just look out for my Telegram messages.
Oh, I'm happy to. Man, I'll put you once you send me that document of what you want to do, right?
Mhm.
We typically like we could do, think about it, right? We could sign a consulting agreement, right? We put like the rate of intercoins in there per hour, that kind of thing, right? And
Mhm.
then you come on the team. Like we have meetings every Monday. The team gets together, and I want you to meet the other people on the team, right?
Mhm.
People. And like, yeah, like I'm just saying, you're not going to be working alone in the corner, you know. Hit me up on Telegram. I'll put you in the Intercoin Telegram team chat, like Slack, like all this stuff. And
Mhm. All
let's go.
right, yeah, I'll like I said, I'm gonna rack my brain a little bit more. I think I did outline a good chunk of what I think, you know, should happen, things of that nature. But yeah, I think yeah, I'll get that over to you. Oh, dude, I feel like my brain is like taking a minute to process already. Like that's why I feel like I just got hit with exhaustion because that was a lot, man. We dove deep. Uh, you know, you've practiced a lot with your lung capacity, and I'm still, you know. So anyway, I definitely want to take this and synthesize it, like I said. So, and that may be me having to rewatch this again and as well. So shoot me the link whenever you get that up, because it'd be interesting to see.
Oh, the
Uh,
video. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
actually, since we're putting it publicly, if anyone's watching this, and you also have skills and you want to contribute to the movement, right, to the project, like join the community, hit us up, like come to community.intercoin.app, right? And then just introduce yourself, like join, look how many people, like introduce yourself, because the people who are joining, it's like the Bitcoin community, like early on. Sure, it may be rough around the edges and needs a lot of polish, but if you get the idea, besides the beauty and everything, if you get the idea, then they could change the world. So
For sure. Yep. Well, cool, man. I appreciate your time and everything. I didn't expect. I haven't even looked at the clock. I refused to look at the clock for a good while there, because I'm like, no, I'm not gonna like let my brain, you know, like shift to something else. But 12:30. Okay, that's not so bad. But yeah, man. Like I'm excited to kind of like see where this goes. So yeah, we'll have to continue this discussion offline and yeah, like go from there.
all right, man, this was a pleasure.
Likewise.
We'll talk.
All right. Take care, man.
All right, take care. Have a
Yeah.
good rest of your day.